It is MMA Weekly Radio. I am Damon Martin, and we are joined today by, I'm sure, a very happy and maybe a little fatter today, Johny Hendricks. Johnny, congratulations on another phenomenal win, and thanks for taking the time for us.
Hey, no worries. Yeah, I'm just a little bit. Right now I'm weighing about 190 to 195, so I'm actually doing pretty good.
Be honest, though, man. You're going to enjoy Thanksgiving.
Oh, man. You better believe it. It's been about, let's see here, 5-6 years since or longer actually, since I've had to really get to enjoy Thanksgiving. So I plan on enjoying every moment.
And you've definitely earned it with that win over the weekend, man. You definitely earned some turkey and potatoes and everything.
Hey, I agree. That's what I keep telling everybody.
Johnny, before we move forward, let's talk about the fight itself, because you knew going in, having trained with him in the past, how tough Martin Kampmann was. Do you feel like the work you put in and everything, do you feel like this was the most ready you've ever been for a fight? Because I know you trained hard for every fight, but you really knew Martin. You had worked with him, so you knew how tough this guy was.
Yeah, I knew that he was a tough dude, and he's only gotten tougher. Excuse me. And whenever I was sitting there and I started to prepare for this guy, more first and foremost is whenever you start preparing for somebody that that you've faced before or that you have trained with, the thing is that that you have to adapt in some ways, meaning that he knows the person I am. You know what I'm saying? He knows what kind of person I am, and he knows how hard, how bad I want to fight. So knowing that, that's what made it so fun to train for Kampmann, is that, every day I had to wake up and be like, today's going to be the hardest day of my life. But that's also what makes it fun for me to wake up, that kind of competition.
Yeah, absolutely. And with that said, I've got to ask you, Johnny, because if there was one slight criticism of Martin Kampmann, and it's not a bad thing, he'll be the first one to admit this, is the fact that sometimes he is a slow starter. He comes out of the gate, and, he said it before, I kind of need to get hit a little bit, and then I kind of wake up. Did you have the intention, obviously, we'll talk about the knockout in a second, but did you have the intention to kind of come out and be a fast starter, knowing that Martin traditionally is not?
No, I didn't think. I'm a slow starter too. Look how many kicks he threw before I did anything back. You know what I'm saying? So I like to feel out the opponent I'm going to be fighting against, and whenever I was sitting there in the octagon, I was sitting there and. So I wanted to get his timing. I wanted to feel his power. Those are some of the things I like to just relax and do. And, I was sitting there, I was like, okay, I felt this kick. I felt this. Now it's time to see if he can handle what I want to offer. You see what I'm saying? And that's sort of the way that I like to play the game, is feel their stuff out. Okay. You got some good stuff. Now let's see if you like what I have.
And I think one left hand down the pipe pretty much answered that question for us, didn't it?
Yeah. Well, you also got to think that everybody, even on Twitter, I was reading somebody's thing today. They're like, "Oh, we figured out your left hand." Well, who cares if you figured out my left hand? The fact of the matter is that all it has to do is touch you one time. You know what I mean? As soon as it touches you, it can be lights out, and that's a nice thing to have in your repertoire.
Yeah. So what's, you obviously, you did it against John Fitch, and let's be honest, it's not easy to duplicate that against another top welterweight, but when you hit him with that left hand and you saw him go down, we knew at that moment it was over. What's rushing through your head? Because that's such an emphatic punch, and to have it happen literally almost identical to the Fitch fight, that's just crazy. We just don't see that in this sport very often.
Man, the only thing I thought of is God bless me with some power. You know what I mean? I don't know why or how I got it, but man, I can hit somebody, and it feels like a ton of bricks is falling down on them. You know what I mean? And for some reason, and it's enjoyable to me. You know what I mean? To hit somebody and to see their reaction. So I think that's sort of something that I need to correct in myself, because you know, now if I fight GSP, I know what he's going to want to do. You know what I mean? That's something that I've been thinking about this ever since the fight happened. After the fight, I was like, okay, guys, all right, we know that GSP likes to shoot underneath people throwing their power hand. How are we going to correct this? How are we going to do this, this, and this? So I've already been dissecting my game for the last 3 days on how to improve my striking to help me out further down the road.
Yeah. Let me ask you, before we talk about GSP, I want to ask you, because you and Martin had been friendly, you had trained together, I know that you liked him as a person, and this was just a fight, but is it a little tougher to knock out a guy you know? And you know what I mean? I mean, obviously you and Fitch knew each other, but I mean, you guys hadn't trained together, you weren't close friends, and I'm not saying you and Martin were best buddies, but is it tougher with that moment, or do you chalk it up to it's just part of the business?
Man, it's part of the business. You know what I mean? You wake up, and your job is to fight. You know what I mean? That's what I'm paid to do, nothing else. And if that would have happened to me, I'd have looked at Kampmann and said, hey, you're the better dude tonight. And if you want to go have a beer or hang out, you know, I'm more than happy to do that. You know what I'm saying? But that's just the wrestler in me. You know what I mean? The guy that, and realistically, man, there's a part of me that goes in there without a care in the world. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know how or why, but whenever I'm in there, like, nothing matters except for just enjoying the moment.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Now, with that said, I've got to ask you, Johnny, before we talk about the future, the other fight, I know you were watching it very closely, was the main event between Georges St-Pierre and Carlos Condit. So what did you think of that fight?
I thought Carlos Condit did everything that I thought he would. I thought that, you know, GSP did everything that I thought he would. And, sorry, my daughter came over to me. I'm watching the kids right now, but you know, GSP took Carlos Condit down. What I was actually really impressed with is how Carlos Condit was able to get to his feet. You know what I mean? He was able to get to his feet and keep the scrambling going. And also, not only that, but I knew that Carlos Condit could win on the feet. And so those things were all playing out in front of me, and I'm trying to take all this in, you know what I mean, because I don't care which one I fight, I just wanted to fight one of them, right? So I'm trying to take in all these things as it's happening live, so that way I can remember them and see if I see anything different whenever I watch it on replay. And so I was sitting there, I was like, man, this right here is cool. This is right here is cool. They both did an amazing job. And, you know, like I said, I think it was a great fight for both of them. And, you know, GSP came out on top. So, you know, that's what I want to go after. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I've said for the past couple of months before this fight ever took place, I was not a huge fan of the Silva-St-Pierre super fight, especially considering there is a number one guy awaiting them after the UFC's 154 is over. And you clearly defined yourself as the number one guy. You've knocked out John Fitch and Martin Kampmann, and you also beat Josh Koscheck. That's 3 top 5 fighters in the span of a year. There's no doubt you're the number one guy at welterweight. But tell us, I mean, is it frustrating? Is it disappointing, this super fight talk? Because I think we've already had the welterweight division on hold for a year. Why put it on hold again?
That's it. You know what I mean? That's it. Is that, you know, realistically, I've been waiting since May too. You know what I mean? Because they said that was going to be a number one contender spot. And, you know, I beat Josh Koscheck, and I was waiting to get a shot at, either Carlos Condit, or if those two are going to fight, I knew that I was going to fight somebody else, right? So I'm not mad at either one of them, or even the UFC, because, it is a lot easier for them to sell champion upon champion. You know what I mean? And I'm not mad at Carlos, because Carlos earned his spot to face GSP. You know what I'm saying? Now, if GSP couldn't come back this year, then yes, I would have liked a shot at the interim belt. But, it all happened. It all happens for a reason. You know what I mean? And that's sort of the way that I'm looking at it, is that, everything happened, and now I look at it as that before it was between me and Kampmann. You know what I mean? The number one contender. Who is it? After he beat Jake Ellenberger. So after he knocked out TKO Jake Ellenberger, the talk of those two, well, now we get to clearly decide, instead of maybe, if we didn't fight, who's to say that I would have got to face Carlos? You know what I mean? If GSP didn't come back, because a rematch, and Kampmann beat Carlos earlier in his UFC career. So that probably sells better than just me and Carlos Condit. You know what I'm saying? So everything happens for a reason, and I just, I just sat back and bide my time, and now that I know I'm clearly the number one contender, now it's just time to wait for the bell.
Yeah, and I know you mentioned that after, during the presser, you said that, you are happy to wait, because, again, I know you mentioned when we talked to you before the fight that you said you understood Carlos waiting. GSP's a big fight. It was a big moment, and obviously, he came razor close to getting GSP in that third round. So if this all goes down the way it goes, are you satisfied with sitting out, 9, maybe 10 months, depending on, I personally still think it's going to be you and GSP. I just have this gut feeling, Johnny, that GSP wants to defend his title, and I don't know that he has a lot of interest in that Silva super fight. So between you and me, I think we're going to see the title fight sooner rather than later. But if that's the case, and it ends up being, let's say, September, October, whatever it is, are you willing to sit out and wait for GSP?
Hey, man, I can only get better. You know what I mean? Look how much better I got with, in just 6 months of being able to, or 3 months of actually being able to focus on training. You know what I mean? I'm still developing as a fighter. You know what I mean? I've only had 14 fights in my UFC, or in my career altogether. You know what I'm saying? Where all these guys, they've had 20-something fights. So I'm still developing. And I think once I hit 20 fights, that's where I'm going to be at my peak. You know what I mean? I'm going to learn everything that I know, and I'm going to do everything that I can. And right now, I'm still learning. I'm still developing. So I'm excited, that if that super fight does happen, I'm going to be disappointed. But then again, I'm also going to take time for that, and say, hey, this happened for a reason. This is what I need to do. I need to get in there, and I need to improve on different areas. You know what I mean? Always improving, always improving. That's the number one goal of me. Mine.
Yeah. And do you feel, that's what I said, the statement you made, especially in the Fitch and the Kampmann fights of those big knockouts, I feel like right now, George, as great as he is, and I love George, and obviously I know you respect him a lot too, I feel like right now, he's got to look over his shoulder a little bit, because there is a guy waiting right behind him who has phenomenal wrestling. Obviously, you have wrestling right in your back pocket, and you have knockout power, and I don't know, like I said, maybe looking ahead at Silva's not the right move, because he's got a guy standing right behind him that he should be worried about.
And that's it, and that's why I laugh when people say, we figured out your left hand. My boxing isn't my strong point. You know what I mean? It's something I've only been doing for 5 years. You know what I'm saying? I've only done striking for 5 years. I've done wrestling my whole entire life. So if anybody's going to say anything, wrestling is my strong point. My jiu-jitsu, I feel, is better than my hands. You know what I'm saying? It's just that sometimes I don't show it because I don't get the opportunity to. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so that's something that I can't wait to show the world, is how good my jiu-jitsu is, how good my wrestling is. Like I said, my wrestling has gotten only stronger because in the last 3 years I've gone up to OSU so much since I moved to Texas, that my wrestling's almost back to where it was in college days. You know what I mean? And I'm only going to keep improving on my wrestling and keep adapting. And not only that, but, you know, John Smith, the assistant coach, Zach Esposito, and Coleman Scott, you know, whenever I go up there, they're all trying to help me improve my wrestling for MMA as well. You know what I mean? And we're always brainstorming off of each other. And, you know, so having that Oklahoma State wrestling program right there, you know, it's only 4.5 hours away for me. And, man, having that's a blessing. Because you can mimic wrestling all you want, but you can't go into a competitive room, and that's where you get to really test yourself.
Yeah, and I know that that's been, you know, GSP's biggest strength. He used it again in the Carlos Condit fight, but I got to be honest with you, Johnny, you're a guy whose wrestling credentials speak for themselves, and obviously I know you're still in the wrestling room quite often. I'm sure you would love to see what GSP could do and see if he'd try to take you down.
Yeah, and I'd like to see how hard it is to take him down. You know what I mean? You know, right now I've been wrestling. When I go to Oklahoma State, I wrestle, you know, anywhere from the 185s to the 197 pounders and bigger. You know what I mean? I'm wrestling big, strong wrestlers, and you know, I'm getting to where my wrestling muscles are coming back. I think that if I go up there for a couple more weeks, which I will, they'll be back to where they're back to normal. And once I hit that stage, and that's where my punching power has started improving so much, is that my back, my shoulders, my thighs, and my triceps, from gripping, from sucking in the legs, and all those things have helped my punching power so much that, and not only that, but wrestling has also helped my mental aspect. You know what I mean? That killer instinct has come back to me. And I think that's really the difference between my earlier fights to the fights that I've been having since I've been in Texas.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, Johnny, I'm rooting for the title fight to happen because I think you are the number one guy. I think you and GSP needs to happen. I think this division needs to continue to move on. We have a number one guy. We have a champion. Let's see a title fight sooner rather than later. What you say?
Hey, I hear that. And you know what? I promise you, I won't disappoint.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Well, Johnny, obviously we want to say a big thank you again for taking the time. And before I get you out of here, I know you had a lot of supporters for this fight. I want to give you the chance, the people that were beside you, teammates, sponsors, anybody you want to give a shout to, you go right ahead.
Yeah, man. Of course, you know, I want to sponsor, Echo, Bass Pro, of course, you know, and then I got a couple other guys. I'm trying to think of who they are really quick. I'm going to get here and get on my Twitter, and because of my Janet, she takes care of all that stuff. She has been doing pretty good keeping me informed. So like TRX, Wild Wing, MGR, and also, you know, of course, Team Takedown. And also I'd like to thank my family and thank God for blessing me for everything. And also I'd like to thank our troops. You know what I mean? I think the troops are going unnoticed sometimes, and I'm just thankful for them that I get to wake up every day and do what I love.
Absolutely, absolutely. That's a very important point to make. Johnny, again, man, definitely appreciate the time. Congratulations on a huge victory. I know you had Bass Pro Shops beside you for this fight, so I think the next one you mentioned on Twitter, I saw it. I think we need to get you on Duck Dynasties, courtesy of Bass Pro Shops, before the next fight. What do you think?
Hey, that sounds good to me, man.
Johnny, again, man, thank you for the time, buddy. Enjoy your holiday and enjoy some Thanksgiving for once.
Hey, you know what? You have a happy Thanksgiving as well, and you have a great day. All right?
All right, buddy. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, later.
Bye-bye.